Welcome to the Cambridge Financial Podcast with Bert Salazar, CEO at Cambridge Financial Partners, LLC. This podcast is all about tax-preferred retirement planning, economics, financial risk management, and achieving a risk-free and successful financial life. Now, your host, Bert Salazar.
Good day, everyone. Welcome to another Cambridge podcast. I hope that all of you are doing well and you're excited for another one of our podcasts. It was very interesting because over the weekend, my wife and I were having dinner with some good friends at a very nice restaurant here in Coral Gables, Florida. And obviously the conversation came around, tax law and what's going on in the market and the stock market and economics and so forth. And one of the things that I try to avoid as much as I possibly can is having discussions about insurance, investments, tax planning, and economics, especially when we're out with friends having dinner and enjoying a couple of drinks here and there. But it never ceases to amaze me that these conversations continue to happen. As a matter of fact, we're sitting at the bar, and next to us there was a table, and some of the people at that table were just having a conversation, regarding the new tax laws and so forth. So it just keeps on happening every single day of the week out in the marketplace. So the conversation that we were having at our table, or the conversation that our friends were having at the table, had to do with how expensive life has become in the United States. Some of them have been in the U.S. for many, many years. There was another couple there at the table that had only been in the U.S. For approximately 6 years. They are from Venezuela, and they had to come to the U.S., and they opened a business here and so forth. So, a lot of those conversations are about inflation, taxes, the fact that people are not making enough money, and obviously they wanted to get my feedback on this matter. So what was interesting to note is that, not only the clients and the people that I talk to on a regular basis regarding economics and finances don't know this, but the vast majority of Americans truly do not understand how much money they can actually make in a lifetime. Over the last few weeks, we have had podcasts, I think since the very beginning of 2018. The first one that we did was based on the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017 and all the changes for 2018 and beyond. We also had another podcast on financial resolutions for 2018 and beyond, and some of the things that I would recommend, for each and every one of us on this podcast to adhere to and to start making little changes in your lives in order to have a better financial future. There was another podcast that I conducted, which we talked about the effectiveness and the importance of having wills and trust and advanced care directives, especially, when people need to make decisions, but they don't have the ability to do so because they're sick and they cannot think for themselves. We also had another podcast on tax planning and tax questions to ask at tax time. And then a couple of weeks ago, we had a podcast on the Premier Retirement Distribution Blueprint. And that included all the different vehicles and tools that were available in the marketplace for all of us to make certain that we could sustain and maintain a tax-free retirement life. And then last week, we did a retirement discussion where we talked a little bit about, the process, the swing versus the clubs, and that kind of stuff. And I thought that was very well received because I did get a few emails regarding that issue. Today, I want to talk a little bit about the conversation that I had with my friends over dinner over the weekend. And what's interesting to note, as I said earlier, is that the majority of Americans truly do not understand how much money they will actually make in a lifetime. So I need to put things in perspective, because at the end of the day, it's not so much about how much money you make, it's how much money you keep. And when I walk you through these numbers that I ran for all of you, I think you'll agree with me that, paying attention to your finances and paying attention to the fact that we only have one life to live, and definitely one economic life to live, then it's very critical that we're making the right decisions at the right time and for the right reasons. So let's take, for example, a period of 35 years. So I could be talking to a 30-year-old today who's going to be working for 35 years. He or she already went through college, got a very nice education, or if they didn't go to college, hopefully they found a nice job, or they opened a business, or whatever that may be. But let's look at a 30-year-old who's thinking about retiring at the age of 65. So that would be a 35-year period. And let's talk about an annual income the first year of $60,000. Today is not difficult to find a 30-year-old making $60,000 a year, especially if they have an education. You know, I have talked to many clients that tell me that education doesn't mean that you're going to be a winner. But I have never had anyone that tells me that because they had an education, they did not succeed in life. So if this person were to make $60,000 a year and never, ever, ever receive a pay raise for the next 35 years, in 35 years, this individual has made $2.1 million. I mean, that's quite a bit of money. Again, the key thing is, out of that 2.1 million, how much is that person going to keep? But usually we all know that no one is going to start a career at the age of 30, make $60,000 a year, and not get any increases for the rest of their lives. But if that person didn't get an increase, then the earning potential was $2.1 million. Now, let's go ahead and for argument's sake, let's go ahead and add an increase in salary or an increase in business income, and it could be a combination of many different things, of 4% per year. If you happen to be an employee in a company and you do well, chances are you're going to get anywhere between 3 and 5% increase in your pay rate on an annual basis. And that would apply to many of my clients that are public employees here in South Florida and throughout the United States. So this same person that was making $60,000 a year with never getting a raise, that was able to get to $2.1 million at the age of 65 just by getting a mere 4% increase on an annual basis, that same person now total income potential for those 35 years would be $4.4 million. So that's a tremendous amount of money that is going to go through your hands, through our hands in a lifetime. And I'm talking about somebody working till the age of 65. What if you work till 70 or 75? What if you started working when you were 20 years of age? So I'm just using a 35-year period just to build this exercise so you can understand what I'm trying to do here. Now, what if you didn't have any expenses? And not only did you make $60,000 a year, but you also received a 4% increase. And then you were able to invest each and every one of those dollars with no added expenses. And you were able to obtain a rate of return on your investment of 5%. Well, that income now, or that potential earning income or earning potential, is now almost $9.9 million. So I think the theory here is that all of us have an ability to make a lot of money. I think the big challenge is, how much of that are we going to keep? And I'm gonna give you a couple of exercises that I think you will find very interesting. Now, again, the same person that is making $60,000 a year with an annual increase or inflation increase of 4% and getting a 5% rate of return was able to get to almost $9.9 million in income generation over a 35-year period. But now, obviously, we all know that there are expenses that we need to pay. So I'm going to start to deduct some of the critical expenses that all of us need to deal with in the United States, and then you'll see why it is that I'm doing this exercise. So the first thing, I'm going to add taxes. because we all have to pay taxes in this country. There are two certain things in the United States. One is death, and then the other one is taxes. So obviously that's something that we all have to deal with. And I'm placing taxes at 40%. Now, some of you may say to me, well, Bert, I'm not in the 40% tax bracket. I don't pay 40% in taxes. And my argument is that yes, you are. You are. All of us are paying at least 40%. Because when I factor in taxes, I'm not only talking about federal income taxes, I'm talking about state income taxes. If you happen to live in a state that you have to pay state income taxes, sometimes even county taxes. I'm also talking about Social Security benefits, taxes that you pay, Medicare taxes that you have to pay, property taxes if you own a home, obviously sales taxes. Whenever we purchase something, obviously we have to pay sales taxes. Therefore, when you start to factor in, and by the way, many of the taxes are hidden. And many of the taxes, just take a look at your phone bill and take a look at all the different types of taxes and fees that all of us have to pay. By the way, fees is another word for taxes. Another issue is, if you want to fly from here to LAX and you go online and you go to American and you buy a ticket, a percentage of the ticket payments that you're making already have taxes included, airport taxes, all kinds of different taxes that are included, fuel taxes, and so forth. Even when all of us fill up our cars and automobiles every week with gasoline, you're paying a gas tax as well. So when I'm using 40% of taxes, I'm talking about all of the taxes that all of us need to pay. So again, if we are using a 40% for taxes, that means that the total cost of taxes throughout that 35-year period is almost $1.8 million. But then the actual loss of the tax liability to our earning ability is more like $3.9 million. So people would say, Bert, how can I have a cost in taxes for $1.8 million, yet you're telling me that the actual loss is $3.9 million? And the reason is simple. If I have to pay $1.8 million in taxes, not only did I lose the $1.8 million that I had to pay to the government and to all the institutions that I pay taxes to, but you also lost the opportunity cost, because if I didn't have to pay taxes, that $1.8 million growing at 5% in my portfolio would have gotten to the $3.9 million. So although the cost that you paid out of pocket over a 35-year period was $1.8 million, the actual loss of opportunity cost is more like $3.9 million. Now, for debt service, that means all the stuff that we owe money, mortgages, car payments, and so forth. It's in the average in the United States is about 35%. So if we add that cost to that $9.9 million of earning capacity that we have over a 35-year period, that adds to another $1,546,000 of actual cost. But again, if we add the opportunity cost to that of what we could have done with that $1.5 million, then it would be more like $3,460,000. Lifestyle, obviously, there's a cost, because all of us want to live well. All of us want to spend money. All of us want to enjoy life, because there's only one life to live, just like the soap opera many years ago. So I add another 20% to that. So 40% to taxes, 35% to debt service, 20% to lifestyle. That amounts to another $883,000 for a total of $1.9 million. So when it's all said and done, we have had a total cost of $4,198,000, almost $4.2 million. But the actual loss, because of the opportunity cost of that cost, is more like $9.4 million. So out of the compounding effect of our earning capacity of $9.9 million, we only have $9.4 million left. In reality, we have a little bit shy of $500,000 for retirement savings, because the majority of Americans are not saving more than 5%. Yes, you may be saving more than 5% as you get closer to retirement, but when you factor and you do the calculation over a 35-year period, the average savings rate is about 5%. So if you think about it, your last year of income, using that $60,000 and growing it at 4%, in the 35th year, that income for the year would be $227,000. And if you have just shy of $500,000 in savings, in reality, you only have 2 years of savings for your retirement. So you could see how much money someone can make, but then you can see how bad things can go if you don't know how to manage money. Now, what if you were able to reduce your taxes from 40% to 30%? You know, that 10% differential of tax rate, that would have increased your retirement income savings to almost $1.3 million instead of the $494,000. So just by cutting a little bit here and there, you're able to put a tremendous amount of money away in savings without having to take any risk. By the way, just by reducing your taxes, you have no risk whatsoever. So it's very critical when I work with clients that I educate them in making certain that they don't have to pay the kind of money that they're paying to the government through taxation if they know how to manage their tax rates and so forth. Now, the same thing happens for lifestyle, and that's something that we'll consider. Now, what's interesting to note along these lines is that, you know, most of us are spending money in things that we don't really need to. Now, we all need to drive an automobile, but obviously some of us want to drive Mercedes, BMWs, and so forth. So there's a difference between needs and wants, and I think that's something that's very critical for all of us to understand on this call. And I'm also going to share with you a way that most of us are spending a tremendous amount of money without having to spend that kind of money on. So, you know, let me give you an example. I hear this all the time, that clients have money in savings. They say to me, well, Bert, you know, I don't finance everything. I pay cash for everything. And here's what I have to say to you. Everything that you acquire in this country is finance, especially as we just went through that exercise of the actual cost of doing things in the United States, because at the end of the day, the reason why everything is financed is because either you're paying interest to someone else or you're failing to receive interest on your money by paying cash. Remember with the previous exercise, you know, the cost of taxes was quite significant. It was somewhere around $1.8 million. But the fact that you were no longer earning that 5% rate on that $1.8 million, it actually increased your cost, the opportunity cost, to almost $3.9 million from a business perspective. So I'm going to give you one final exercise for you to consider, just so that the next time you guys are thinking about purchasing an automobile, that you make sure you do it the right way. So let's take this individual who has currently $100,000 in assets set aside. They're good savers, are actually saving $10,000 a year. They're getting a 4% rate or increasing their savings by 4% every single year. And they're getting a rate of return on their savings of 5%, similar to the previous exercise. But this individual comes to me and they say, you know what, Bert? I have money set aside. I have the $100,000. I'm, investing $10,000 a year. I'm increasing my savings rate by 4%, and I'm getting a rate of return on that as 5%. So I'm instead of financing automobiles through a dealership, I'm just going to use my account and I'm going to pay for it cash. And what this exercise is going to do is going to share with this individual that, again, what I said was correct in the fact that everything is financed, whether you're paying interest to someone else or you fail to receive interest on your money by paying cash. So again, I'm going to do a 30-year period just for this exercise. I'm not going to go to 35 years. And this individual is going to purchase an automobile every 5 years. And by the way, the same exercise would apply if you're someone that doesn't believe in purchasing automobiles, you believe in leasing and so forth. The numbers are going to change, but they're not going to be significantly different. So this individual purchased an automobile every 5 years. By the way, according to auto statistics throughout the United States, the average purchase of an automobile is 3.8 years, so just shy of 4 years. So I'm giving the benefit of this doubt to this individual who wishes to purchase a vehicle, a brand new vehicle, every 5 years. Now, the actual purchase price is about $35,000 a year, so this individual is definitely not buying a high-end automobile like a Lexus or a BMW or a Mercedes. Now, they may be buying those vehicles, but they may be purchasing those vehicles at the lower end of the spectrum. So $35,000 is not a bad pricing for that. We all know that the cost of automobiles in the U.S. increase anywhere between 5 and 6% every year, but here I'm just using a 3%, and the reason for that is because perhaps at the end of the 5 years, there's going to be some trade-in value on the automobile that would offset a portion of that inflationary increase. So I'm using a 3%. Sales tax is 6.5%. Insurance premium is about $1,250 a year if you happen to be a safe driver for this individual. And also insurance increases every year by somewhere around 4%. Now, think of it this way. If this individual had $100,000 of assets, they were setting aside $10,000 a year, they were increasing those savings rates by about 4% every year, and they were getting 5% on their money over a 30-year period, at the end of 30 years, that individual would have $1,564,000 in an account somewhere. It could be a savings account, it could be a mutual fund, again, wherever you want to put it into, as long as you can get that kind of rate of return, that would be a win-win. Now, because of the fact that this individual purchased a total of 6 vehicles, or actually in this case, the person purchased 6 vehicles for 5 years every time out. So that's 30 years of a period of auto purchases. The cost of purchasing these vehicles was $404,000 over a 4-year period. Okay. Now the true cost of the vehicles, remember, because it's not the $404,000 that will be the incremental cost, is not only the $404,000 but also the opportunity cost. The minute that you start taking that money every 5 years to pay cash for your vehicle, that means that vehicle is no longer earning that 5% on top of that. And again, you're paying cash for a depreciating asset to begin with, but that would be another exercise, and we're not going to get into that. So the cost, the cumulative auto cost over that 30-year period was $404,000, but the cumulative auto cost plus the opportunity cost, which is the true cost of automobiles in the United States for this individual, was $911,000. So in reality, this same person, that if they didn't use this account to purchase automobiles, would have had $1,564,000 saved after 30 years. Now, after using that account to purchase those vehicles in cash, would only have $652,000. So that is an enormous loss of $911,000. Now you're going to say to me, Bert, but I do need to purchase vehicles, and my answer is going to be absolutely. So again, my goal here is to educate you as to how economics works. Because if you're able to make an intelligent and an informed decision when you're purchasing automobiles, then you're going to be in a much better position than you were before you really understood these numbers. Because, what if you decide to say, well, I'm not going to buy a vehicle every 5 years because my vehicle is still fairly new? What if I want to wait 7 years? What if I want to purchase an automobile every 10 years? Most 10-year-old cars nowadays, if you take good care of them, they're going to last a long time. So therefore, if you're reducing the number of purchases and you're keeping your vehicle for a longer period of time, you're actually reducing your internal cost of the automobile, and you're also reducing the opportunity cost overall, which now will allow you to increase your assets to a much greater level. Now, what if this individual decided not to purchase a vehicle for $35,000? They wanted to do it for $45,000. Well, the exercise is the same as far as growing the assets without purchasing a vehicle. This individual would have had $1,564,000 in assets, but because they decided to purchase a $45,000 vehicle every 5 years, so he or she purchased 6 of them, they had a cumulative auto cost of $499,000, almost $500,000. But then the true cost, which also included the opportunity cost, is now at $1,132,000. So after paying for all this cost, the client is left with an account value of $432,000 as opposed to $1,564,000. And by the way, guys, this exercise, I'm only applying it to one car. What if you happen to be a 2-car family? What if you happen to be a 3-car family? So we all have to understand that over a lifetime, we're going to be exposed to, and we're going to have a tremendous amount of money flowing through our hands. The issue, again, is not how much money you make, but how much money you keep. You see, as I always say at the very end of every podcast, our goal with all of our clients and our goal with all of us at Cambridge is to make certain that we get our clients to change the way that they see things, because when you do get to change the way that you see things, the things that you see change. Again, hopefully you were able to enjoy this short podcast and this short exercise on the fact that we have to take responsibility for our expenses. We have to take responsibility for our obligation to have a clear understanding between needs and wants. And we need to make certain that we can protect our finances for many years to come. So looking forward to seeing you all next week, and have a great day.